They're eating the flesh creepers. They're eating the head crabs.
Remember, if you're late, you cannot debate. You will be kicked off the stage.
Yeah. Even for debaters.
Alright, Diva missed a shot. We're gonna start. Okay, this is the first debate, 2024, the head developer election. I'm gonna start with opening statements. Each candidate gets 1.5 minutes and 30 seconds. If they attack another candidate, they can respond. So, let me do a coin flip. Who goes first? So we have 5. Okay. Ptown.
Yes, hello.
State your vision and your opening statement.
Alright. Well, we're here in Sunrest right now in order to improve CS. I will do a new branch of CS using the 2020 branch and slowly cherry pick the updates as I promised in my speech. I will make sure that I do want a CS where it's actually more fun and we focus more on the buffing aspect and less about the nerfing aspect. So it's going to be like a Dota 2 balancing method. We do want to make sure that this is actually fun for all play styles. Roamers, the AFKer that love to stand still for the entire game because, I don't know, I guess they're watching YouTube, watching Subway Surfers on the side. The poor medic mains. The C mains like Pushy and Skycat that love to sweat 24/7. And basically all the in-betweeners at that point. But I do want to make the game a lot more harder, or a lot more CS Classic-esque in that regard, in hopes that we want to actually reach the 2% win rate. I do want to make a better game mode. I do want to make a better zombie survival in this rate. And I'm actually competent enough to actually do it, as shown in 2013 with my massive update of QLs that I gave it in that current time. That'll be all.
Thank you, Ptown. Pufulet, opening statement.
So let's all be honest here. I have the most to lift from all the past experiences and reputation that I've gathered. I know that I've got the most work cut out of me from any other candidate. And with that, I can make you the promise that I will continue to work hard, as you can see through recent updates as well that I've just been doing, that I am capable of change and that I can focus more on delivering fun updates to the community. And it doesn't always have to be about just nerfing and balancing. I know people prefer for me to work on content updates, adding stuff to the game. That's what I've heard a lot from people. People don't like it when I do balancing, and I can totally understand that. And I've already had some plans in place to handle that, including scrapping how the current dev collab depth discussions is. It's not good. Instead, I want to appoint advisors of every single role. So I want gunner mains, melee mains, medic mains, roamer mains. I want to give all of them a badge. And when it comes time to doing changes for, let's say, guns or whatever, that role would get pinged. And they would then get the chance to discuss and review the changes that I want. So I think that people would appreciate that more because truthfully, yes, I have not been able to play the game enough. For a very good reason, because instead of playing the game, I'm developing the game, and people would rather have me do that. Because out of all the other candidates, I've been able to produce the most content for the game consistently. New content. I'm not talking about just value changes. Anyone can do a value change. but it takes a lot of effort and experience to develop entire seasons and new mechanics and everything to the game. And I assure you, I'm going to continue doing that. So, going forward, I'm going to focus less on balancing, putting that balancing into the hands of people who have played the game more, who are better experienced with it, and focus instead on delivering all the new content and changes to the game that we would rather see. And no more sudden changes or updates. All balancing needs to be put behind branches. And as you can see, in the last month or so, I've already been doing that. So regardless of head developer or not, I'm already making these improvements. But I know that if I do become head developer, I can bring forth a more unified front and ensure full dev cohesion and the best leadership that I know we can have compared to any of the other devs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Pufulet. Magic, your opening statement.
So, I am the only lead developer here who has put forward a side ZS project that has survived for more than a year. As you all know, I work on Zombie Survival Remantled. We had the most successful playtests, and we offer an experience that is not just side ZS, but a completely different take on ZS. As far as side server goes, I was planning on making Remantled as an option for side server, maybe even replacing point save by giving it point save compatibility. Point save is already a host to a lot of orphaned content, and someone needs to clean it up, as they say. As far as main goes, you've all seen what I've worked on. I worked on monthly leaderboards, I worked on emote slots, I worked on quality of life and general upkeep. I plan on continuing that by offering more mini games and sparkwork that players can play instead of having to play zombie. And I will also look into having it so that we require 2 reviews for each pull request. 1 for balance and 1 for performance. In addition, for those who support me, they'll have access to a new food item called deer crackers. That is all.
Thank you, Magicswap. Gorm, your opening statement.
Right. So I know I'm not as savvy when it comes to coding or being able to set up systems, but I do, if I am made head dev, I do intend to focus more on gameplay mechanics and trying to return identity to certain weapons or mechanics that have been neutered over time, because I think a fun ZS is a ZS where you can have many different like mechanics like knockback, very powerful zombies, very powerful humans going back and forth. I think that I would work with other devs to try to construct a game where all of these different power levels and mechanics would come together to have a fun experience instead of homogenizing the game down to a very basic level of we need to nerf zombies, we need to nerf humans, and instead how about we work towards something where, you know, humans get some crazy shit, zombies get some crazy shit, and both sides get to really experiment and show off different mechanics that play around with each other. From what I would do is basically have different devs help construct the game in a way where we try to focus on these things to really try to promote a fun experience. And I just want ZS really to come into its own without having to worry about balance. Because sometimes I feel like other people worry too much about the balance and thus sacrifice identity for it. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Gorm. Cyan, your opening statement.
I'd like to first start this off with, there's probably going to be some background noise since things are going on outside, but my plan for ZS is mostly to have it, we already have a lot of events and whatnot, right? We have a lot more content being added with alchemy, we have a lot more zombie-sided things with skills, and we have a lot more human-sided things, but I think that what really we need to focus on is what we already have, which is more so the community as well as the content that we have, as in branching out, creating more community events with creating content instead of just maps, creating SDKs, actually going out, involving people more, getting people to want to play more. Because I think that seeing a 4 gigabyte download when you're first joining the server is pretty perturbing for people, and that's not, something that they want to see when they just want to quickly try out a game. I also think that the mentality that we have as devs should be a little bit different for nerfing and balancing things, because just because you see a statistic show up saying a weapon, is overperforming, whatever, we actually have to go out of our way to test these things, go onto the server, make sure that it's actually not just a one-off thing because dude's fucking abusing the hell out of it and top scoring, and it's actually a legitimate change that needs to happen. And also, I had some specific questions for Pufulet, because he mentioned that he does the most content and he does the most updates, but are they really, is it quality content or is it just quantity? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to see stuff being added to the server that's just, another thing that we could do to get weapons, another somewhat unique way of doing things. I want to see something that's actually quality driven. Just because it's something else to add doesn't mean we should necessarily be adding it.
All right, thank you, Cyan. Pufulet, he did mention your name, so you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, I think we all know about the content, that it's not just mass producing the same sweeps with different stats. When we're talking about content, we're talking about bounty shop, new class selection. We're talking about the start of the seasonal events. I was the first person to create that entire system. Anything that Scott wants as well, I'm able to just quickly design. So I would say, yes, they're absolutely very high quality and huge changing mechanics. Let's not also forget about Sigil Blessing. The Sigil Blast, Rifts. If it wasn't for my content, we would still have everyone inside the Cade, wave 3 to wave 6. Because before me, there was no reason to leave the Cade. So I would say absolutely top quality content.
Can I mention something?
Thank you, Pufulet. No, hold on. We're getting to the first question. But since you're so eager, Gorma, I'll pose this question to you then.
Okay.
So, people know that you are behind a lot of the many nerfs and buffs in ZS. You're basically one of the top people to rebalance stuff. So, how can you reassure the players that you're targeting the right weapons?
Because I try to speak with the player base and other devs to try to figure out what the main issue is with the gun. And sometimes there's actually been times where I've been told to nerf a weapon by other devs, and I say no, because the weapon actually isn't even being used. And I think weapons should at least be used and somewhat shown to be functional, as opposed to us just randomly nerfing them, or it's sometimes I even buff weapons that aren't even used that much that are good on paper, because I want people to experiment with these weapons and these different functions, these different tools, to see what they can come up with. And I feel like me balancing them in a way where I actually try to talk to people and try to see how it affects the game is better than just saying, the stats say this weapon is a 5% damage DPS increase because it's in a hallway. And that's really what I would focus on when I try to balance these things. And half the time when I do nerf something, it's because other devs don't want to do it. And it's like I said, I just sometimes I don't even nerf them because they're not even used. And so I feel like the stats honestly have had a very negative impact in terms of just looking at them and then just flat out nerfing them instead of seeing how they actually function in a live environment. So,
thank you for that. Now, a question for Pufulet. You often say we need to debloat and decreep zombie survival. Do you think that goes against what you're saying in terms of adding new content? Does that mean you're going to remove content? How do you go about reassuring the players that you're not removing content that could potentially be someone's favorite or something like that?
So, removal of content should be the absolute last option. It shouldn't even be an option, right? I think if it gets to that point, then that content's better off being reworked. But let me make it clear. When I say de-bloat and de-creep, what I'm actually meaning is that a lot of these stats for zombies and humans, and even just a general power, has been consistently increased. Whenever someone adds a new class to the game, or a new weapon, or a new skill, they want people to use it, and they're excited about that, so they will make it very strong. And then what will happen is, over the course of many months or years, you're going to get stronger and stronger content. And then when you look back at how things used to be a few years ago, no one uses that anymore. It's completely overshadowed. And that is a big problem when it comes to power creep. That is the definition of power creep. I think ZS thrives on consistent content being added to the game. I don't think it's ever a bad thing that we get more weapons, trinkets, skills, zombies. I think that's what people love. And I would never want to get rid of that. My biggest concern is that new content that gets added, it needs to be relative to the existing content that we have. So, and that's what I've been doing a huge push on as well. And I know people don't like seeing countless walls of nerfs, but there is a very good reason to it. And in the future, when I do need to do these things, I promise to ensure that if there are going to be a bunch of nerfs, that there needs to always be a bunch of buffs. You can't just have an update where you're only nerfing things across the board. That's going to make everyone unhappy. No one wants that, even though it might be for the good of the game. I need to be thinking about it, not necessarily just from this esport balancing point of view, and actually think about, is this actually fun, right? Fun, it needs to take precedent over balance. And I think that's been a huge weak point that people see from me from my previous changes.
Sorry to cut you off. Time's up.
Oh, no, I'm done now. Thank you.
Okay. This is a question for Magic. Now, you stated that if you're elected head dev, you'll design a new food item, deer crackers, and that is a taste of what's to come. Do you have a description of what that means?
So, I was going to take a new spin on this as part of my promotional campaign. As you know, deer crackers come in packages of about 5 or 6 of individual crackers. I was thinking you would get the voting for Magicswap role, and you would get 1 pack per day as part of your daily login to ZS. This would give you your combat stacks, any other buffs you think about, and if you stay as a voter for Magicswap, you'll be given a individual cracker each start of the round, which is kind of like a lesser version of that. Now, this is as a part of a promotional campaign, and if elected lead dev, this will be expanded to put into a high-tier food item and integrated into contraband, fishing, alchemy. It's a way to engage the community with activities that we host in other places of Sunrust, like cinema.
I see. Okay. This is a question for Ptown.
Yes.
So, you promised to follow a Jepum style vision and have a 2% win rate. And as we know, towards the end of that server's life cycle, Jepum's philosophy nearly eradicated the whole server. So, what makes you believe so strongly in his ideology in terms of a future for zombie survival? And how can you ensure avoiding his fate of a dwindling player base towards the end?
Well, if we compare this to current Sunrust at this moment, we'd be comparing a tinted rose window to a pitch black, dark place at this point. Because honestly, CS right now in current Sunrust is absolutely baffling stupid. It is incredibly easy. the win rate is currently at the abysmal 60% and plus for almost every goddamn map right now. Right now, winning in CS is just like doing nothing. You just literally do nothing to actually play the game, and you still win. It's just that you have to hope that people somehow be stupid and get trimmed by many means that a lot of people have done in order to at least make the game more fun. Which, you know, it has been a wonderful story seeing Pushi having to do all these fancy tricks just to get people killed, only to then press F1 and immediately go into spectator mode. Just because zombie is apparently unplayable, putting in funny quotation marks in this point. So I'm actually hoping to make the game more fun for everyone and to actually make it hard, to actually make the wins feel better, to have very close games, a lot of close games, just to make people feel that adrenaline rush of wanting to actually win and not just snore, snooze fest, stand AFK in one sigil spot, press hold M1 and do nothing. So I'm actually wanting to make CS more fun in that regard compared to a lot of the devs here that deep low push out, which is kind of conflicting. So yeah.
Thank you, Ptown. So I have a question for Cyan. Now, you talk about nearly 70 models then have under 3 purchases, and as well as map size being big.
Yes.
So now, how would you go about quality, checking the quality of those, making sure you're targeting the right ones? Do you believe in a mapless purge, or would the beloved anime models go? How would you decide that?
Well, the biggest priorities for actually monitoring these things is the amount of space it takes up and the quality of the actual content. So if there's a lot of people buying, you know, there's also part of it's actually people buying. So the three main factors, right? If you have a lot of people that are actually buying this product, like this model, and there's it takes up a lot of space, that would be grounds of actually getting, like, you know, changing up a bit, maybe lowering the actual space it takes up. Whereas if this model has been sitting here for maybe like 2 weeks plus and there's not many people purchasing it, then it's in grounds for removal. So it's actually clearing up what's in the shop currently, getting rid of things that aren't being used, because in all honesty, there's no real reason to keep, if a model's been in the shop for a year plus and there's only 3 or 4 people that have bought it, no one's probably going to buy it anymore. So there's no reason to keep it up there. Sure, people might be upset. People might be upset about the fact that they put, you know, effort into making it, but at the end of the day, there needs to be a precedent for not having over, you know, 200 models in the shop. Whereas for the maps, there needs to be a little bit more quality control, in my opinion, about, sure, the map might look good, it might visually be appealing, but does it actually play well? Am I able to enjoy a game of zombie survival and not have to worry about the zombies spawning above me and jumping down, or worry about zombies being protected by Z-gas all the way up to the actual cade? There needs to be sort of precedence for the content that's being produced and an actual model that people need to abide by. And currently, I do not feel like that is in the game right now. It's just more of a, hey, do you want to make that? Is it low space? Sure, let's just push it and see if people buy it. So I think that with these changes, it actually allows people to put better quality content out there.
Oh, thank you, Cyan. Oh, Cyan, sorry. I was reading my next question. Okay. Now this one goes back to Pufulet. Now, let's say a weapon is overperforming and the players are upset and angry and nothing is being done about it by the dev team. Now, how would you go about quelling the community in this situation, given that they may want the weapon nerfed?
Well, first thing I would do is I would ask the community to see what do they think should happen with this weapon. And by doing so, you can get a general consensus of what people might think is wrong with it. And then going off of what the community thinks, as well as my own testing and gameplay with it, I would then propose some changes. And then if people think that those changes are good, then they would just get pushed. I think that's the best way of dealing with it.
I believe Gorm is saying you're lying about that. Gorm, what is he lying about?
I've literally never seen you ask people besides zombie balance changes on how to balance something when it, like, I've never seen you actually come out to higher level players and be like, hey, how should I nerf this gun? I've actually spent time behind the scenes when I'm looking at different weapons being like, how should I balance this compared to its contemporaries in a tier? And I think I've literally only ever seen you talk to other Z mains when it comes to zombie balance. I've literally never seen you talk about weapon balance when it comes to other high level players. So like, I think it's just a lie.
Okay, well, I can prove you wrong, and I know for a fact Dude can vouch for me on this. I know he's listening. There you go. True. So I do speak to high-level players privately sometimes as well, as well as in other channels. So there you go.
There you go. One time. All right.
Well, now Dude can attest to this. This has happened many times over the years
where there's been multiple times where I'm like, hey, this high-level weapon is kind of treading on other weapon boundaries in terms of identity, and I'm like, I don't want to nerf it, and I want to keep it, usable instead of being unusable. And the reason why it's so frustrating is because you say you talk to these people when you nerf something, and then sometimes when you nerf a weapon, it'll be like you fucking just destroy it by just like nerfing it by 40, 50, 50.
Okay, well, that's a different thing then, because that's talking about where you're trying to carefully balance a weapon and then you're taking a sledgehammer to it. And if anything, from my recent updates that I've been doing the last month or two, they've been showing that I've been taking very careful, doing very careful value changes and not trying to outright kill a weapon. Because so the proof is there, and you can speak to some of these other players as well that are very well known, and they will happily vouch for me that I do speak to them.
Thank you,
and I do make changes based off what people think as well, who are more experienced at the game than I am.
Thank you both.
Okay.
I'm going to pose this question to Magicswap. So, it's your first day elected as head developer. You've won the election. And theoretical. What are the first things you do? The first 3 things you do as the head developer.
First thing I would do is schedule a ZSR playtest. People want the ZSR. The first thing I would do is schedule the ZSR playtest, and then once that's underway, I would be reviewing the current state of the game mode, seeing what the low-hanging fruit for quality content would be. Quality being as in like code stability, seeing if there's any errors that keep popping up. Can you believe that there are errors in the server console that Pufulet and also most developers didn't know about?
I see. Pufulet, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, so those errors in the console, because all of the devs have access to the server-side error logs. And it's funny how you specifically mentioned my name when in fact that all those errors are also from every single other developer, and that there is not one developer that has a perfect record.
What?
Okay.
Can I see something?
Yeah. You can say something, Ptown. You can respond to that.
Not gonna lie, Pufulet, but you're actually bullshit at this point. Considering that most of your updates, when you actually push updates, you actually go to sleep. And then the server's actually on fucking flames, on fires, and then we have to end up fixing your shit in the end.
Okay, when was the last time that happened? When was the last time? Because I'm very aware of the meme, but when was the last time that I actually did that?
That was actually last year.
You mentioned that as well, because with the Navmeshink, HST pushed an update, and then he went to bed.
Collecting.
And then, quote, did a Pufulet. So, I think
so
you'll find that everyone's going to have a distinct...
Now you're just
why are you deflecting
it?
Hold on. Let him speak.
Because I'm making it very clear that there is not one Saint dev who hasn't done changes that come with errors.
What the fuck?
That just happens. And I've always taken responsibility for the errors and any problems, and that I quickly do resolve them, and I do spend the time to fix them if they do happen.
That is true.
And the thing is, as well,
Everybody
you
is
mentioned
responsible
that
for that.
I do a lot of errors, that I cause a lot of problems. Who else from the dev team is pushing that much content and releasing that many huge updates? There you go.
You do make a fair point, but you can't just deflect the fact that you actually release updates and then the update is left as is for a few hours just because it went to sleep, and then the server is still broken at this point.
That hasn't happened in over a year and a half, Ptown. That happened probably twice back then, and then I quickly learned from it, and then I don't do updates before I go to bed anymore. So I learned from my mistakes.
So I was asked the other two things I would do if elected as lead developer. The second thing I would do is review point save and see if we can get the server saved. Because honestly, it's on chemotherapy at the moment. The third thing I would do, Pufulet would be required to only release updates when he wakes up and not when he's about to go to bed.
Well, thank you for that.
Do you mind if I ask a question for Ptown real quick?
Yes, Cyan, what's your question?
Ptown, you mentioned that you had a different game mode that you were looking to make. One that was more akin to early ZS, right? How is that going to differ from ZSR, and what would happen to ZSR if your game mode was created?
I mean, you're comparing apples with oranges at this point, because CSR focuses more on the CW add-on, and my changes is to actually fix main's boringness. That's the whole point. It's to literally fix main's very boring, very slow, very Snorfest Fiesta state in it right now. That's all what I'm aiming for, just to fix the S to where it was. To actually make it fun for everyone. Make roaming strong. Make gunning strong. And also make zombies strong alongside with it. Actually have every single role fun. If HVH failed because of me doing classic, then I can just redo HVH on my own method then. If that's the case. I'll do HVH V2 in that case. Even if it takes me to 4 years or 3 years to single out every single change that I have to do.
I see. Thank you, Ptown. Yes, Pufulet, you can respond to what Magic said before. You got 30 seconds.
So Magic said that if he's head dev, he would make it so I can't release updates before I go to bed. Well, that's a waste of effort, because I don't do that anyways. Like, I've corrected myself, have I not? I've shown people that I can improve. So he doesn't have to worry about that. Like, you don't need to be a head dev to improve yourself, right?
The Pharaoh, though. When the Pharaoh broke the server and you went to sleep.
Did it break the server?
Yes.
What about it broke the server?
Did you forget that you couldn't select certain zombie classes because the Pharaoh was just like fucking the class selection? And then you went to bed?
That was actually the zombie upgrades.
Yeah, but he still went to bed after he broke it, and then he got angry in dev and said, "Why did we disable it?" I remember that. That was earlier this year.
No, I'll never get angry if someone disables my content, because I assume they do it for a good... Oh, look who's getting angry.
Let him speak, Gorm.
Right, because I'm well aware that our developer team is in different time zones, and that sometimes a developer who's been working on some content is not available to do any fixes if something happens. So the precedent is that they can just have their content disabled, like the class or weapon disabled, and then that div can be pinged. I had to disable this. When you get a chance, can you look at it and then re-release it? That's the precedent we have.
Yeah, and I've told you before where I've seen it, where someone disables something that you've made. I remember I disabled... If I remember correctly, it was the Pharaoh when it was bugging in the class selection. I disabled it, and you got pissed off when you were waking up in the morning because you said you fixed it, even though the server was still broken and people were telling you the server was broken when you went to bed. I remember you specifically being mad about that. So I don't know why you're saying.
Are you sure I was mad, or
Yes!
that you weren't the mad
Do you
one?
want me to go dredge up dev chat?
Yes, please do. If you have the evidence for it, I'd be more than happy to look at
Let's
it.
see the live fact check.
Yeah,
So
can we have a fact check, please?
While that is being fact checked, I would like to point out that alongside Pharaoh, Mummy has also been broken for 2 months on Summer. I feel like the community hasn't been aware of what the background of that was. As people know, Mummy had no arms, and upon further investigation, it appears that it was a reproducible bug in local servers. There's nothing
now
special
that is
about
false.
It just
I know
simply
for a
did not
fact
have arms.
that is false because I have, on 3 separate occasions when this bug had happened, I had gone on my local server and I've tested it. I've tested it with fake lag, fake net loss, everything, and I could not reproduce this bug. And then I went back to the modeler of the hands to maybe see if there was an issue with that. So it's saying that it was reproducible on the local server, I know for a fact that that's not true.
Okay. As we wait, Gorm, we're going to hold you to that fact check.
I know, I'm looking.
However, I'm going to pose another question. This can go to multiple people. I'm going to ask a few people this question. Magic, what's your foreign policy essentially on other ZS servers outside of Sunrust? As you are from another ZS server originally.
We have players from multiple servers invading Sunrust. They are eating the flesh creepers. They are eating the head crabs. We need to do something about them. We need to make sure that they are incorporated in the Sunrust lifestyle. We cannot have something happen where people join the server and try to make it something that it isn't. The whole reason I started ZSR is because I knew that main could not become the embodiment of what ZSR is supposed to be, which is a recreation of PA, which is a recreation of GC, Gentlemen's Club, which is a recreation of QG, Quack Gaming. And I think there's a few more servers behind that too. So as far as my foreign policy goes, we will accept new players. We may accept their ideas. But the reason I do this is because of the whole decreep, debloat fashion. If we accepted everything, the server would simply be 5 gigabytes. So I'll give you an example of this. When the new sigils were first released, we incorporated a lot of content from Fearsome Gaming. We did not incorporate all the content, but we reviewed it and introduced what we thought would fit in the current state of Sunrust.
Okay, so I found the image.
Okay.
I remember this happened.
I
can explain this.
30 seconds, Gorm. 30 seconds, Gorm, and then Pufulet 30 seconds.
So I remember I disabled it because it was still breaking after you thought you fixed it, and then you came back on in the morning where you said, "Why did I disable it again instead of just reverting it?" Because I saw it was broken, and then later on when we were talking about it, you said, "Oh, I need to do my own investigating because I fixed it," and then you reverted it to disable it. And this is exactly what I was talking about. I'm not insane. Like, I get angry, I get it, right? But I'm not insane. So, like, if you say this shit, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, and then I have to go dredge it up, which is just stupid. So, like, you know.
Okay, Pufulet, your response?
So, you said that I got mad. Now, tell me from that screenshot.
Okay, do you want me to go back to
how does it look like I got mad?
Okay, 1 second.
Because, like I said, I understand that you had to revert it, but clearly, as you can see there, that you did not explain why it had to be reverted. I did not have a ping. There was no mention. There was nothing. So naturally, if I see something reverted for the summer update, I'm going to ask. And that's exactly what I did there. So if you think that inquire shows that I'm angry, you're
first of all, you asked to see where it happened.
Hold on. 30 seconds. I want to pose this next question about foreign policy to Ptown. He's had experience with different servers. What's your foreign policy on other servers outside of Sunrust and the players?
To be fair, anyone can play the game. I don't care who joins. I don't care if it's FDKCT and the Glowies. I don't care if it's the Notchesnet sailing group, the one that we missed. Anyone can actually join, for all I care. And honestly, they can just eat whatever they want. Because what I care is the fun. What I care is for everyone to have fun. Even if it means everyone else is eating each other off, who cares? Everyone's having fun.
I see. Thank you for that. Pufulet, your foreign policy.
Foreign policy on players
other
from different servers.
On other players from different servers and other servers themselves.
I mean, in my opinion, Sunrust is the greatest server and the greatest community, and I don't think that any other server or community for ZS exists in my eyes. I think we're the only one. And regardless of where you come from, it doesn't bother me. I don't treat anyone differently if they come from any different gaming community, right? I mean, some of our developers, they're from different communities. I mean, even hell, I know a lot of us were refugees from Noxious Net. So we all come from different places. So, I mean, I don't care where you come from. If you're playing Sunrust, then you're a member of Sunrust and you're part of the community. And you all just get treated equally, really. Don't have anything else to say on that.
Gorm, your foreign policy on other servers and players from other servers.
I would just like to say that Sunrust started off as a community that was from another server, and we kind of transitioned into our own thing where we became the dominant ZS server. I personally do not care what other zombie survival servers do as long as they're not stealing our content or trying to obviously rip off our ideas, as long as they just try to make their own unique spin on ZS. I think worrying about other servers in general will just slow down main progression and will lead to too many headaches. So I will say, though, that it was very interesting that Pufulet failed to mention anything about actually taking in other people from other servers by making a better game. I don't really have anything else to say about that. I'm pretty sure this is just cut and dry.
Well, thank you for the response then. Now, Cyan, I'm going to ask you the same question. However, I'm going to ask you about secret discords. Since you are a part of them. How can we trust that you will uphold the rules of Sunrust, as some secret discords may be unsavory, but also your foreign policy on other players coming from other servers and outside communities?
I like to say that originally, I'm probably the newest dev, I guess you could say. I didn't really come from like Quack Gaming or these other outside sources, right? I'm originally from Sunrust, basically. I played back in the day a little bit, but I'm originally from Sunrust, right? That's what I mainly played. And because of that, I have a little bit of a different outlook on these things. Like, sure, we do need to have new players coming in, right? It's important, like, why block people off? If anyone has a good idea, you might as well take it if it's good enough quality and it'll actually benefit the game up. But I do think there is specifically a need for actually bringing more people in, because Gmod is almost 20 years old now, right? You're not really going to be getting many new players as of late, and you're not going to be getting many new players playing Gmod. So it's especially important for us as a community to be bringing in more people to actually play the game, to be able to actually want to join the server and to play in it. So not only should we bring people in, obviously, but we should be having the intention of wanting to keep them there and having fun. And as for the other servers, at the end of the day, I'm just there to have fun, right? Just because back in the day, we're all associated, at least I was, with the Snell Cord and whatnot. Unsavory things happened then, but, I didn't really associate with the actions of that. I was just there to have fun, and it isn't a reflection of what my mentality is for buffing and nerfing and balancing and my ideas. I was just kind of brought along, but that just because people were in these different places doesn't mean that they shouldn't have either a second chance or they shouldn't be locked out of doing different things. People are able to change, and they are able to have a different outlook of what their opinions should be.
Very well said. Pufulet, I believe you were mentioned by Gorm, so I'm going to let you respond. 30 seconds.
So he mentioned that I didn't have a plan for bringing in players from different communities and servers. But who here actually does have a plan, right? And more importantly, who has done the most work to make the game more intuitive and easier to understand for new players? I mean, just look at an example, the new zombie class selection, right? Look how intuitive that is and easy to understand every single ability. And look at some of the other recent features as well, like zombie bosses having a whole ping wheel. All these things that I'm adding are also to try to make the game more streamlined and easier to understand, as well as the auto-buy stuff and some of the other features that I've got planned in the future, where I wanted to work on something that would allow the shop to recommend you a weapon to purchase based off of what you currently have in your inventory. That's another nice feature I think players would love.
Thank you, Pufulet. I want to switch gears and talk about another highly contested topic, zombie escape. And I'm going to start this off with Ptown. Since you're behind the ban list, or the quote-unquote Z ban list, would you has your mind changed with Z? Would you allow for more Z on the server?
Yes, I
would
do
you make
agree.
it votable?
Yes, I would actually make it votable. I did change my... Shut the fuck up! Oh my god, you're actually finding the chat. Now I'm reading it. Anyways, but yeah, I will actually change it to make it votable. I actually change my stance. The only thing that I do want, the only thing I do want, and I'm making my word consistent, is not making CE forced. Let people vote on it. No, let people vote if they want CE or not. If they want CE, they vote for CE. But forcing CE is not the option. It's letting people choose what they want. And if anyone wants to be against on my wording, I'm going to add you to the CE ban list. That one's going to be actually real.
Oh, shit. Okay. Pufulet, your stance on Z, should it be votable?
Absolutely. I think the community love playing Z. I know personally I don't play it that much, but I know that the community goes nuts for it, and I think that we should have it in our pool as well. And not only Z, I think we need to have Zombie Master. I think that also ties in that we need a side server coming back as well, because people love these. They love these modes, right? We shouldn't try to restrict them behind another server. Let the community decide when they want to play it.
I see. Now I'm going to pose this question to Magicswap. Magicswap has a track record of implementing Z to Remantled. So would you make Z votable on main?
So I could just come out here and say that I'll make ZE votable on main, which will be in line with all the other candidates. But I believe I would be the only person who would go a step further and actually develop new features for ZE. So I have, in development right now, monthly stats for ZE, which we track materials used, times you got a consecutive bunny hop. We're planning on implementing stuff like times died to lasers, solo wins, buttons pressed, triggers, anything you can think of that can be tracked in ZE, we can make a monthly stat for. No problems, no questions asked. If it becomes popular, and if we become, if ZE becomes a weekly event or something that happens more than once a month, we can implement monthly leaderboard rewards, where if you're number one in one of the leaderboards for the monthly stats with ZE, you get rewarded when the month changes. It is true that I developed a lot on ZE for Remantled. That is one of the hallmarks of ZSR playtests, is that we play a few rounds of ZE to test the game mode out. I've implemented HST's weapon wheel into ZE as an alternative quick method of accessing the inventory. As far as ZE goes, I have lots of plans for it, and I feel like it has a lot of potential, not just for people who like classic ZE on CSS, but people who want a more Sunrust spin on things, or maybe even something completely new.
I see. Thank you very much for that response. I'm going to pose the same question to Gorm. What's your stance on ZE, and should it be votable?
My stance on ZE is we have a large, passionate part of the community that loves playing ZE. They love griefing ZE. They love watching people die in ZE, and they love winning ZE. So I think if the community wants it, they should at least be able to vote it maybe once a day, maybe even like 3 times a day. And I even think we should go as far as maybe adding materias to main. Maybe if you win a ZE map, the next map you get a materia, like Earth materia, Wind materia, and maybe we could even make it team killable, where you could use the ultimate materia and kill the whole server. I think this would be very fun and probably more engaging for ZE players, because ZE players love normal ZS, and I think encouraging them to have a way to kill the whole server would be very, very fun. And I'm not joking, I would actually do this if I'm voted in. I would make it so materias would carry over into the next game if you win ZE, so you have an incentive to win ZE. And I would also tie in rewards to ZE to actually make it encouraging to play it and win the maps, as opposed to throwing them. So that's my stance on ZE. It's a lovely game mode.
I see. Okay, Cyan, I'm going to pose the same question to you. Should ZE be votable on main?
Yes, I do, but I think that there needs to be a little bit more of just like, not necessarily just saying, oh, let's go vote Z. I think there needs to be a little bit more integration with the community, as in, sure, there were like, some rewards posted at some point about like, oh, we've defeated or we won Mako on extreme mode that Jake set up for us or something, or like POTC. I think that yes, we should have votable Z, but we should have more of association with the events associated with it, as in, like I said, having more rewards, having actual like incentives to win. Because you enjoy it doesn't mean you shouldn't have like custom actual content, banners, Emperor Awards, stuff like that. And same thing goes for the other lost game modes like EFT and RTP, and also ZM, Design Master, because those are also primarily community created content. They should also have the same representation as ZE as well. So there should be community rewards, incentives to actually win these game modes and play them.
Can I speak something?
Yeah, you can, Ptown. Are you done with that response, Cyan?
Yes.
Okay. Ptown?
It's for Cyan. Cyan, but you don't realize that some of the CE maps already have awards, and also EFT already has the stats system implemented because of me.
No, I did mention that there are awards. I already said that.
And that's fine. I guess we can add monthly EFT system for rewards, encourage people to play EFT. Maybe EFT in main. Maybe
because there are rewards already set up for RTP, like actual custom, not models, but actual like hats and whatnot set up for it. But I think more of an incentive to work as a team would be actually attracting people to the game more instead of just having, single person unlocks.
Okay, then yeah, that's fair. That's actually fair. I stand back.
Okay, then I want to switch gears to a more controversial topic. Now, we all know Boomstick has been a staple of zombie survival, and self-knockback has been pretty much gutted. So I'm going to pose this question to Pufulet, who did a round of knockback changes. Should the Boomstick and self-knockback be returned to its former glory, or are you happy with how it is right now?
I mean, the real question is, Scott, are you happy with how it is right now? Because I recall us having a discussion with Darker as well quite a while ago where you saw the Boomstick knockback and you weren't happy with it, and then it got reverted. So, with the Boomstick knockback right now, is it not how it used to be then? And if it's not, do people think it should be?
That would be up to you as a head developer. What would you do? Independent of what I would do.
Because I think that some of the decision making has led us down this terrible path where boomsticks don't have much knockback and everything. And I think that would be an excellent way for me to prove myself that if I did bring back the boomsticks, to have all that knockback again, to see how can we balance it this time. So I would be totally open to attempting that again.
I see. Thank you for that. I'm going to pose this question to Magic. Again, self-knockback. Are you happy with its current state, or should it be changed?
I don't really have a strong opinion on knockback. We could add it back. We could remove it. On GC, I had the Heisenberg Uncertainty Boomstick, where either flung you forward at 1,000 meters per second or flung you back at 1,000 meters per second. Very open to what the community would want self-knockback to be. And hey, if the community wants to flip-flop between Boomstick being a map launcher and Boomstick being just pure DPS, that is fine by me. It doesn't really fundamentally change the game mode whether or not the Boomstick is good or not.
I see. Okay, now Gorm, do you have a strong stance on self-knockback?
I think
And are you happy with it, or should it be changed?
I am very upset with the state of knockback. I think it's one of the mechanics that have been killed over time to try to homogenize the fun of the game by trying to balance it around a higher skill level. I think things like old Dark Arts blades, old knockback mechanics like Scattershot and Boomstick and other weapons like that should probably bring back to full power, and I think zombies should be able to have counterplay to stop humans from being able to actually use them in the first place, as opposed to just deleting them from the game. I think deleting these mechanics from the game significantly bring down the amount of different play styles that you can use, or even be able to bring down the amount of different options that you have. Because there used to be a time where knockback was so powerful you could use it as a offhand weapon for movement, and then go back to a main weapon after you use it for movement. I personally believe that we should just go back in terms of these unique mechanics that have had a place in the game and try to balance it from there on terms of zombie-sided power balance, as opposed to just nerfing it and removing it from the game outright.
Thank you for that. Now, I'm going to ask the same question to Ptown. Should self-knockback be changed, or are you happy with its current state?
In pure honesty, compared to my previous days, and I want to be clearly honest about it, back then I was more against it, but now I realize that it needs to be changed. It needs to actually come back. And compared to what I said currently in my 2020 version, I actually want to keep that. I actually do want to keep the whole knockback in itself. The only thing I do agree on that needs to be removed, and it's completely not related to the knockback, is the view punch. I'm pretty sure everyone just hates view punch in its current state. View punch is the most cancerous one out of all. Knockback can actually stay. Knockback can do whatever it can. Honestly, that's why I said that's why I said that the view punch is unrelated, but I would rather prefer have self knockback and knockback back over the view punch, which has stayed forever in the game mode. That's 100% for sure.
Okay. Now, Cyan, what's your opinion on self knockback? Should it be changed, or are you happy with how it is right now?
I'm kind of with Magicswap on this one, to be honest, where it's not too big of an issue for me personally. I mean, I do think that there could be some changes associated with it, like, partially averting it, because in the state it's in right now, it's pretty pitiful. All honesty, there's not really many movement options that you can look at, because, like, sure, you got, like, the fucking God of War claw weapons, or, some other sorts of things, but it's not really, like, a viable way of actually moving around, so there definitely could be some actual room for looking into rebalancing it and changing it, like, for instance, re-adding it and then actually making some of the ways of applying anchor easier than the current states of it right now, maybe for a little bit lower skill level players. But my current stance of it is, I'm open to actually having a redesign of it.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'll move on to another topic. Medics. So, Pufulet, you've been behind a lot of the medic changes as well as Ptown, but I'm going to ask you first. Are you happy with the current state of medics? given that recent nerfs have been pretty harsh. And just even recently, the Cloud Bomb got taper. Is that something you're willing to be open to change, or are you happy to keep the way medics are right now?
Well, funny that you mention medics, because just about 2 hours ago, me and Kevdu released our first medic balancing patch to address a lot of these issues. Now, I know people were not happy about the medic cloud bomb change. I totally understand that. It's been like that since forever. But people need to understand that we can't have taperless area of effect abilities in ZS, especially when you're getting to 120 humans. It's not balanced at all. It was people were generating way too many points. So I added the cap, and I understand people were frustrated. So what I just did today is I buffed the cap, and then I made it so you also get prioritized if you're injured. And as well as, you can just look at some of the other changes as well. A lot of the tools that weren't being used, they have been either buffed or have given an extra gimmick to make them a bit more interesting to use. So I think it's important that every single medical tool feels good to use. I understand as well that right now, medics are complaining that there's too many medical bounties, and they feel like they need to get all of their bounties to be effective. And maybe in part 2, me and Kevda can look at what can we do to bring some of that power into the actual tools itself, because gunners usually only need maximum 3 or 4 bounties, yet support players feel like they need 8. So I want to address that as well in the future.
I see. Thank you for that. Ptown, you are also behind a lot of the medic updates, including the infamous Final Fantasy staff. So, what are your plans for the future of medics, and are you happy with the balance of them right now? Since you clash with Pufulet in terms of medic balance.
Well, we both clash because we have different points of view of how medic should be played. But in its current state, I feel like it's actually fine as is, to be honest, because I've played medic many times, and I've managed to at least get a T3 instantly without actually care or even doing anything at this point. And let's be real. It's what dude says. Wave 1, 600 points. Yeah, it's actually real. However, I do have a point regarding about the medic cloud bombs and stuff like that regarding the cap. You could have done that without an actual cap number. You could just made it scale based on the amount of players standing in the circle. You could have just done that instead. But you didn't think about it. You only thought that making a cap was a better option in that case.
I'm going to allow Pufulet to respond to that. 30 seconds.
I mean, he's blatantly wrong. It's got a taper now. It does exactly that. Yeah. Sure, it still has a cap. That cap is very high, and it's going to be really difficult to reach it with the taper. You could remove the cap, and it would function perfectly fine, right? That cap, you're not going to reach it now with the taper. So, yes, I did think about it. Yes, it's already been done. Maybe you're not the one reading the update logs.
What?
Excuse me?
No. Ptown, your response. Yeah.
Hold on. No.
30 seconds.
Yeah, it does have a taper. You could have just made the taper dynamically in the first place. You don't have to do a cap. You know this.
What is a dynamic taper, Ptown? This is a new term. What is a dynamic taper?
A dynamic taper is what basically scales based on the number of activity that's happening. So if a lot of humans are standing inside a circle, just make it very, very weak. It could have been done with that without the cap.
You mean a taper?
A different type of taper.
A different type of taper that no one's ever heard about until you just mentioned it right now.
Because you didn't think about it.
I didn't think about this schizophrenic new taper, you're right.
Okay, then we'll see.
Anyways,
as we see
the queen of tapering and AoE, Drew, is here. and he can happily vouch that I've
Wait,
done exactly what
there's
needed
no way
to be done as
joining.
well. So
No, you can't
there
bring your
go.
boyfriend in here.
No,
Hold on, Gorm, let them talk.
So there you go. I think Drew has the most experience when it comes to dealing with Taper, and he's already saying that you have no idea what you're talking about. So we trust the experts, right?
I have great people. I have the best people in the tapering field.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna direct the question to Magic now, though. Medics, are you happy with their current state, or do you have plans for future medic content? What's your stance on that, Magic?
So, as always, I'm a little bit skewed from medics from where I came from Quack Gaming. So, I'll comment on the med bomb since that seems like the most pressing change. Let's point out that the med bomb was the same for 6 years, and the server has had its 120 pop for, I think, three or even 4 years. So
Yes, it's been 4.
I believe that the medic bomb change was not necessary at all. I believe that it could have stayed the same. And this reminds me of another instance before when the med bomb was included in Worth. The medical bomb was going to be removed from the Worth menu, and there would be nothing there. And I took it upon myself to animate and create the SDK for the medical cloud powder so that medics could have something in the Worth menu to replace it. As you all know, medical cloud powder was a half-strength med bomb that was later incorporated into alchemy and other places in ZS. So the 600-point wave 1 starts. I believe the real finger to be pointing at are the buff weapons. I believe that pocket buffing, is the source of most of the evils in ZS. I believe it's causing most of the points. You get points for buffing people with speed and slipstream, buffs that don't impact damage at all. You get points for those. So I believe that a major review of the buffs and restoring vanilla ZS content to be back to vanilla would be the way to go and would keep all players happy, including the ZS purists, which is the main audience of this game mode. Wrapping it back to ZSR, ZSR of course has the med station, which is the deployable that requires no user input to heal players in an AoE. ZSR gives more points per heals. ZSR promotes combat medic because the Worth menu is engineered so you can get a medical kit plus your weapon of choice. And during the playtests, medics are happy. The win rate is fine. And I believe that buffing is the real issue here, in that all these taperless complaints are a red herring that are throwing these oh-so-great developers off.
I see. Thank you for that response. Gorm, I'm going to pass it off to you now. Are you happy with medics as they are, or should they be changed?
Well, the thing is about medics, it's a very delicate issue in the sense that we keep adding these mechanics and buffing, changing, whatever, the healing values because of such a high player count. If you think about it, the player count, how many humans are alive and how many humans are getting killed or hurt, actually influences how much healing is done. So it influences point income. So it's kind of like a thing that feeds itself. And because we keep adding medical tools, which are good, by the way, I think adding more tools is great for the game. The issue is when you have a lot of people going these tools and mechanics on a higher player count, it can snowball out of control and lead to a massive point income. I want to say that the issue with medics is you don't want to make the player base unhappy because they kind of are the lifeblood of the game mode in terms of actually making people survive and winning the game. But the other issue here is that it's a role that is so fundamental to the game that you would have to change it on a base level from instant healing to delayed healing, or have some mechanic for zombies where if you're hitting someone, you can't instantly heal back 100% of your life from 5 medics healing you. Another issue is that when you have tools like med bombs, which were fine at lower pop, and with how much the health pools are lately in terms of like being able to go, max HP trinkets, you can basically generate points that weren't there before because of these higher player counts and because of these higher health pools. It's hard, like I said, because you need these players for the game to function, and you don't want to upset them, but at the same time, you need to retool the way medics work in a way that isn't like fucking them over, but also still fun to play. So it's something that I'm not satisfied with, but it would mean like we need to figure out a way to actually properly address it as opposed to just nerfing values or tapering things. I think it's something that is very complex, that is a core issue of the game. I think it's something that needs to be evaluated as like a group. And that's basically how I see it. It's just a very complicated issue where you don't want to alienate the players and you don't want to over nerf it.
Okay, thank you for that response. Cyan?
Currently, I think that there definitely could be it's a fundamental balance change of medics, because at the end of the day, there's only so many ways you can create a tool to actually heal people and to, you know, at a lesser extent, buffing people that just doesn't overlap with other tools that exist. So I definitely feel like that there is grounds for just not necessarily a whole rework, but making it so that if you wanted to specialize in a certain way of healing, a certain way of buffing, that you, instead of making it into a weapon, make it into a bounty or something specialized where you can actually get that, but it actually makes the gameplay a little bit more interesting than just picking the weapon and, you know, maybe shooting and buffing or actually healing like that. I definitely think that there's grounds for making things a little bit more variable and actually making it you can branch off into more specialized play styles.
I see. That's all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that response. Alright, we're going to jump to, since we're about an hour and 20 in, we're going to jump to the last hot topic. Roamers. Now, Pufulet, you've been known to be heavily against roamers, but you're more than fair, to your credit, in trying to make them viable. However, some people may not feel that way. Now, what do you say to the viability of roamers? Are you for making them stronger or weaker?
I want it to be easier to roam, but I don't want the strength of the roamer to be even higher, because there's certain players that are excellent roamers and they do a fantastic job at their role. And I do want to see more people feeling confident that they can push out and play outside even during the waves, or just more people during the intermissions. Everyone knows that I've been the number one advocate for pushing out. That's the whole reason we have rifts. That's the reason why we have supply drops. Everything, they were my design. So it is in my interest that we get people outside of the barricade, because gameplay inside the barricade is the most boring. And people can see, as well as a recent skill that I added,
Hold on, Pete,
that you can just get teleported out of the barricade. And I know a lot of people really enjoy that skill. People also like Smoke of Deceit. People like jump pads, Cloud in a Bottle. So I'm adding all these tools, right? And I'm going to continue to do so, because I do like it when people are outside of the barricade. There's a fine line, though, between then you becoming an unstoppable force of nature, but that goes more into the sort of balancing aspect. But I want people to be outside of the barricade. The more the better. The game's more fun that way.
Okay, then can you name the 7 roamers?
Can I name the 7 roamers?
Yeah, name the roamers.
What do you mean name? Why do I need to name 7 roamers?
Yeah, you have to name them. I want to know who the 7 are.
Jackie Chan.
the 7 roamers.
7? Who said 7? Where'd you get the number 7
You
from?
said 7!
No, I didn't. I said several.
I think you said several, not 7.
No, he said 7. I remember it saying 7.
No, well, you're both wrong then, because I know what I'm saying, so...
Okay, then
I
still
think
name
you need
them.
to clean your ears out or something, or remove your
Then still
headphones
name
and
them.
stuff.
I want to hear the names.
Hold on. I'm gonna
I don't think we need to name players
each to
though,
respond
do we?
to you and Gorm. Ptown, go ahead. 30 seconds if you want to debate him.
Yeah, I'm debating. I want to hear which are the roamers that he's talking about, because if I'm guessing correctly, all of those players actually quit CS. They actually stopped playing the game. I'm
You're
just gonna be
horribly wrong.
honest with you. I'm just gonna actually be honest with you. I'm literally saying the truth.
That's fine. You can be honest and you can believe that, but you're wrong and it's not the truth. Because I can name you a few of the roamers now that I'm in close contacts with. Let's start off with Albino. I speak with Albino almost daily, right? If you think Albino is just a Z main, you don't play ZS. Man, so the White Devil. We got Triv as well. And a couple of other ones that we all know too, right? But those are, I guess, the most prominent ones, the most popular. So, I mean, they still play ZS, don't they? They're still there.
Albino doesn't play ZS anymore.
And I know for a fact, even Triv, right? I know for a fact that he could vouch for some of the changes that I've been doing, and that he actually does enjoy what I've been doing, right?
Yeah.
You can ask him.
Oh, okay.
That's 4 out of 7.
Go on 30 seconds. You can talk.
Okay, so I don't know what the hell is going on in your brain in terms of roaming, but it's just a playstyle that people like because it allows you to actually get be able to go outside, be able to kill zombies, be able to have some fun. I don't know what the fuck is even happening with this whole tangential thing where you're trying to act like you support them when in reality you're just supporting the 2 or 3 random people that you love to talk to and balance the whole game around. It makes no fucking sense. Roaming is piss poor right now because of the knockback nerfs. And honestly, the funniest thing out of this whole thing was the 7 fucking roamers thing. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about there. But, like, dude, Pufulet, you just need to, listen to the fucking community for once when it comes to roaming.
Gorma, I think you need to listen because right now you have one of the top tier roamers telling you that you are wrong.
Top tier?
I think you need to reflect.
Is he the number 1 of the number 7 roamers? Is he like the fucking high councilman of the
Okay, well, you made up the number 7 as well as Ptown.
No,
I think both of you are delusional.
You actually said it. No, you actually said it.
I know what I said, and I did not say 7, right?
He said 7.
I can't believe this. Look, this is what happens. We're getting devs now trying to gaslight other devs. This is how bad
You're trying to gaslight me saying I was just disabled something without you getting angry, and I literally provided proof of it.
Talk, Gorm.
And again, he's saying that I'm getting angry. Well, the entire community knows that I never let emotions get the better of me, right? Let's be honest. Who has the most mental fortitude out of all the other devs?
The nunchucks
never had a mental breakdown. Right?
The nunchucks
and then we have a person right here who's known as the physical anger of a developer telling me that I'm getting angry now. Very amusing.
I mean, you get pretty angry, you get 1v1 by the nunchucks, and you just leave. You just nerf into the ground and you stop playing for the day. I don't know.
Wow. See, Gorma is now resorting to personal attacks.
You were attacking me.
He doesn't have any evidence or anything to stand
Wait, what the fuck are you talking? I literally posted images of Dev with you arguing with me when it comes to disabling the Pharaoh after it broke the server.
Oh, again, and his own evidence shows that he's wrong. Because he thinks that
my own evidence. What, do I need to open up the channel? Do you want me to open up the Dev channel?
You do, Gorma. You can do whatever you want, and I know that I will sleep.
All right, I hope you sleep well.
Do whatever you want.
7 roamers are going to be at your doorstep.
Okay, thank you both. Magic, I'm going to pass the question off to you since they debated a little bit. Roamers, are you happy with their current state, or should they be changed?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say about 7 roamers is that they got one thing right. I think that group roaming should be a priority to investigate as a gameplay mechanic. I think most of the scars that people have from roaming issues was singular roamings being able to tank bosses. I think it should be required that roamers have to coordinate and work together in order to survive outside the Cade, because that's how it was on Classic ZS. When Buy Anywhere was implemented, it removed the need from arsenal crates, and that interrupted a key balancing feature of roamers where you would have a group of 2 or 3. One would have the arsenal, and they would have to actually stop, place the arsenal, buy ammo and whatever, pack it up, and then continue moving. That's something we re-implemented on ZSR. When ZSR has a longer playtest, we hope to see some group roaming go on. We implemented the IFAK, the Infantry First Aid Kit, which is a self-healing tool, which is dedicated to self-healing, and allows you to heal yourself for a great amount of HP but the downside is you're locked in an animation and it takes a while to apply it. So I think all the attacks on roamers that's been dealing with self-healing and stuff like that was, again, a misdirection, just like the Metacloud bomb, just like everything else.
I see. Thank you for that response. Cyan, I'm going to pass it off to you. Your response on roamers?
I think that they're
yeah. What's your stance on roamers? Are they strong? Should they be changed? Are you happy with how they are?
I definitely think there is an avenue that really haven't looked into for roaming, which is more of a support role in the sense, because I mean, Triv can definitely vouch for this. When multiple times I've been cading, game has been looking very good. He comes over and says, "Hey, I can uncrypt the sigil for you guys when it's almost wave 6 ending, so we can actually win the game." And then that chance actually comes to fruition, and he uncrypts it and we win. There definitely is an avenue for that we haven't really tapped into, and I think that if we do go roaming, we can definitely explore more types of support roles for roaming, as in like giving them resources to actually go to a specific place and uncrypt a sigil and make it safe without getting themselves detected, or giving them more resources to actually help the team more instead of it being a solo effort.
I see. And Gorma, I'm going to just pass it off to you since you didn't have a full turn to talk. Minute 30 for your stance on roamers.
I think roamers are a healthy part of the game in terms of being able to actually be able to resecure objectives like corrupted sigils. I think they are very fun in terms of being able to actually press builds and being able to see what you can get away with in the face of danger. And I think their current state is fucking despicable, especially when you consider that Pufulet wanted to remove random teleport potions to begin with, and I had to fight for them to come back and not get deleted in the first place. I think that these tools deserve to exist. I think the game is way more fun and dynamic when they exist. And I think people should be able to play the game they want to, as opposed to just pigeonholing people into only pushing out during wave intermission. And also, as a side note, I know you said you're for pushing out Pufulet. Then why the hell did you make all the demi-bosses afterwards, after you make all these updates, just like instantly kill you because you stack like 5 fucking alpha crabs and you kill them? You argue that you always are for pushing out, but yet you've had so many times where like, I need to make zombies better at killing people. Then it just turns into like a fucking death ball where everyone just like dies. And even then, we still feel ramifications of it today, where you just have like random fucking bullshit. Listen, I know I can go overboard. I remember when that Breach Prowler was buffed and it was killing everyone. But the thing is, you can't sit here and argue that you're only for pushing out when we've seen multiple times where you want zombies to be stronger and basically run over humans. It's frustrating because I want the game to have these options. I think roaming should be better. I think knockback should be better. I think tools should exist. And I just think we're doing it in the wrong direction. And that's really all I want.
Pufulet, he did mention your name, so you can respond to that.
Well, I'm not sure what he means by all these zombie buffs, because if you look at my history, that I've only been trying to tone down a lot of the zombie power because I believe that zombies were killing humans too fast, and they had too many anti-roaming mechanics built into them. That's why we went through the whole period where we were getting rid of Anchor and moving away from that, because all these additions were added only because of pushing out. Let's not forget about when zombies could also deal more damage to your blood armor, or let's not forget that zombies could ignore some of your defense buff or damage reduction as well. All those mechanics
Would you like to talk
I've been getting rid of, right? So it's easier for everyone to push out and not die so soon, because I don't like that the time to kill on humans can be so low, but I also don't like that the potential time to kill on a human can get really ridiculous, where it's just not fun and frustrating for the other team as well.
That's going to happen.
And he mentions Breach Prowler, right? Those changes were sanctioned by Gorma. Gorma saw those changes and he said, yeah, that's awesome, add those, right?
I'm giving an example. I gave an example of what
exactly. A lot of these zombie changes.
Okay, Pufulet.
The reason why they come from me is because there's other developers that ask me about them.
And
I do a lot of the work that other devs are too afraid to do because they're afraid of getting
What the fuck are you
ridiculed. They're
talking about? I
afraid
nerf things because people
of
don't
the
want to nerf
criticism.
things.
They go to me when it comes to nerfing.
What?
They almost expect me to nerf stuff, right? They won't do it themselves. Other devs know
What
this.
are you talking about?
Because they're afraid of getting bad press. Whereas me, I never bothered.
He's lying. The reason why I brought up Breach Prowler was because it was to give a human example of me faltering in terms of zombie balance. Because, truth be honest, zombie balance is very delicate. But the thing is, when you're talking about people coming to you for nerfing, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because half the time in dev chat, you're like, I need to nerf this. And then you just nerf it without asking anyone. So, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Again, it's not true. Unless you have the evidence, then I'd be more than happy to look at it with you.
I already provided evidence of everything else I said. Why does everything that has to be proof of burden be me? I don't understand.
Because I want the truth. And
I literally posted the truth a while ago when it came to fucking Pharaoh.
I need to move to respond here because we're going to move on to closing statements after this. So, Cyan or Green or Magic or Cyan, Ptown, sorry. Any of you can respond to what they're saying.
I think this just speaks for itself on how clear of a vision these devs have for roaming.
A very muddied vision, by the way. Anyways, I didn't give my stance for the roaming, which is I'm actually perfectly fine about it, honestly. Back then, I was actually more against roaming, but it was more on the whole humans have lost. Let's end around, and that's it. But roaming as a whole, I didn't care about it, honestly. People can just do whatever they want, and pure honest. You can just do whatever they want. If anything, I actually do. This is why I re-enabled the stats check for not the stats check, the award for Sigil on Corrupts for that same reason. And Triv can actually vouch for that on that regard.
You see. Okay. So we're done with that. We're going to move to closing statements as we close out this debate. I'm going to start with Cyan as your closing statement.
All right. Well, I do definitely think that Sunrest could be in a better state right now. There are definitely a lot of things that we do need to work on as a community, as devs, and just as a player base. And going forward, we will be able to still stay as one of the most popular servers just in all of Gmod, but we do need to work at it with more community events that are centered around involving more players versus other players versus devs, stuff like that, better balancing, and also better optimization of the server.
Okay, Gorm, your closing statements.
I think the game mode could be in a very better balanced situation, especially if we work more together and have a more unified lead dev that has a final say on creative vision. I think the game is very muddled right now. I think there's a lot of dead content. I think a lot of content has been nerfed over time to try to homogenize the game into sitting in the cave and only pushing out in certain periods. And I hope that as we move towards a better ZS, that we can all work together and actually have a game where you have multiple avenues of being able to play it and being able to have fun in it, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over.
Okay, Magic, your closing statements.
I feel like ZS boring. We shouldn't be afraid to push boundaries. We shouldn't be afraid to add whatever the fuck we want. I hope my work on ZSR has convinced most of you that I am the head developer that can put my ideas to action.
Okay, Ptown, your closing statements.
Well, if anything that have shown, I think Tory changes is what caused a lot of the meta changes in this case. So maybe we should do more Tory updates in this regard. Maybe we should be more free with our stuff. Honestly, I know you're snickering Pufulet because of that idea, and you're the one that's not even actually doing that in the first place.
I didn't say anything. What are you talking about?
I mean, there's a better dev than you are.
These closing statements. Hold on. Is that it? Ptown?
Yeah, no, I'm actually done. No, I'm actually done.
Okay.
We just need more.
Your closing
updates.
statements then.
Okay, well, I'll actually make a proper statement instead of attacking other devs consistently like everyone else does. But I believe that the game is actually in a pretty good state, to be honest. And I'm just going to go straight ahead and even after this debate, do some updates to show people that I've been taking notes of what the concerns are. I'm not going to speak a bunch. I'm just going to show you through my actions. And people will then make their own decision based on what I'm doing. So that's it.
Well, then that concludes it, and I'd like to thank each individual dev for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
There will be a poll later on. Anyone who didn't attend the debate, as in people who were either late or didn't show up, they'll be just listed as write-ins. But the people who are here, the 5 people who are here, are going to be listed as actual voting options. So if you do vote for someone who didn't show up at the debate, you're going to have to write them in. So I'd like to thank Cyan, Gorm, Magic, Ptown, and Pufulet for being here, and everybody else who posted in campaign speeches. Again, there will be a poll later on, so make sure you vote. It's important, truly. And yeah, that concludes it. Audience questions will be in the next debate. So just keep that in mind. People who get low voting turnout are going to unfortunately be eliminated. And the next debate will be between 2 candidates, or 3 if it's really close. They will be required to have vice presidents at that point. They will need at least a running mate. So in this debate, they didn't need one. So yeah, that pretty much concludes it. And thank you all for coming. Just be on the lookout for that poll. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Have a good night.